Have you ever stood before the mighty Colosseum and felt wonder? Looked at Roman temples, aqueducts, or roads and thought, how did they build this? We know the names of emperors, generals, and poets. But we do not know the names of the hands that carried the stones. We remember glory, but forget suffering. We remember Caesar, but forget the slave who brought him his wine. This is their story. A story of pain, silence, and forgotten lives. Let us walk into ancient Rome, not as tourists, but as witnesses. The Roman Empire at its peak was the center of the known world. Its armies conquered continents, its engineers built wonders. Its culture shaped the future of Europe. But beneath its power was a hidden engine, slavery. Slavery was everywhere in Rome. It was not a side note, it was the foundation, almost one. In every 3 people in Italy was a slave. In Rome itself, that number was closer to 40%. That means that almost half the people in the city had no freedom. Who were they? They were men and women taken from conquered lands, children born to enslaved mothers, people sold because they owed money, or simply kidnapped from poor villages. Some were captured in battle. When Rome defeated Carthage, 50,000 Carthaginians were taken and sold. When the legions won in Gaul, Greece, or Britannia, prisoners were chained and marched to Roman markets. Others were born into slavery, growing up knowing only chains. Slaves worked everywhere. In fields, in kitchens, in mines, in temples, in libraries. They carried water, cooked food, mined gold, cleaned floors, and raised children who were not their own. A few were lucky. If you were educated, you might become a tutor or secretary. But most were not so lucky. Most worked on large farms called latifundia. These were giant estates owned by rich Romans. Dozens or even hundreds of slaves lived and worked there. They plowed fields, planted crops, harvested grain, and pressed olives. They lived in small, dirty rooms, ate stale bread, slept on the floor, woke up before sunrise, worked until sunset. There were no days off. No festivals, no safety. If a slave was slow, he was beaten. If he talked back, he might be whipped, chained, or killed. In the mines, it was worse. Slaves were sent deep underground with little air, little food, and no light. They carried heavy stones. Many died from injuries, cave-ins, or sickness. Few ever came out alive. Women suffered the most. Slave women were used as wet nurses. They had to breastfeed the babies of rich women. To keep milk flowing, they were kept pregnant again and again. Their own children were taken away, sold, or left to die. And there was no law to protect them. Rape was common, but the law said nothing. A slave had no right to refuse. A slave was not a person, just property. Even children were slaves. Some were sold at birth, others abandoned and picked up by traders. They grew up without family, without safety, without love. Their childhood was labor. Their future was pain, and yet, even in darkness, some resisted. In 73 BC, a man named Spartacus escaped. He was a gladiator trained to fight for sport. He and 70 others broke out of a training school. They stole weapons, fled to the countryside. Thousands joined them. They built an army, fought the Roman legions, won battle after battle. For 2 years, they were free. They dreamed of crossing the Alps and returning to their homes. But Rome would not allow it. The Senate sent more legions. At last, Spartacus and his army were trapped. 6,000 of them were captured. They were crucified along the Appian Way, a line of dying men stretching for miles. A warning to all who dared dream of freedom. Some tried another way. Skilled slaves were allowed to earn small coins. This money, called peculium, could be saved. After years, a slave might buy freedom, but it was rare. And the master could take the money at any time. One such man was Tiro, the secretary of Cicero. He was brilliant, invented shorthand, helped write speeches that changed history. After decades, Cicero freed him. Tiro stayed, helped publish Cicero's works. But Tyro's freedom came late, and only because of loyalty. Another was Clender. Once a slave, he became Rome's most powerful man under Emperor Commodus. But when food ran short, the people turned. Clender was dragged into the street and killed by a mob. Even at the top, his past followed him. Roman law said a slave's word meant nothing unless spoken under torture. Slave women had no rights over their own children. A slave who attacked a master was not just killed. Every slave in the house was killed too, and yet Rome was proud. Proud of its freedom, its law, its greatness, but it was not great for everyone. The Colosseum was built by slaves, the aqueducts were dug by slaves. The villas were cleaned by slaves, the books were copied by slaves. Even the wine at banquets was poured by slaves. They were everywhere, but never seen, never named. Never remembered. Until now, slavery did not end with Rome, it changed form. In the Middle Ages, in the ships of the Atlantic slave trade, in the cotton fields, in the sweatshops, in the shadows, but we can remember them. The nameless, the voiceless, the beaten, the buried. Rome was not built on marble. It was built on broken backs, and if we want to understand history, we must listen to the whispers of those who could not speak, because they're still with us. In the stones, in the streets, in the stories. And their story matters.